I'd like you to pause for a moment, go back to the scriptures that we've mentioned in these videos, and ask yourself, why did Jesus die? What was the purpose of it? And we can bring another question to the table here. Was the death of Jesus a good thing? I mean, we certainly refer to the anniversary or the celebration of Jesus' death as Good Friday. But was it good? If you look to the New Testament understandings of the death of Jesus, and if we ask, why did Jesus die? Could we ask, did Jesus save us despite his death? That seems to be the insight of the first two understandings of the death of Jesus. The death of the prophet martyr and the death of the suffering righteous or suffering innocent seem to say that the death of these people, including Jesus, is a bad thing. And that these deaths, whether it's the death of the prophet martyr or the death of the suffering righteous, is a bad thing, but that despite them, God still saves us. Did Jesus save us despite his death, or did Jesus save us through his death? And that's certainly the understanding of the suffering servant Christology, where the death of Jesus stands within that tradition of someone who redeems others through their suffering. We've got three different models there, and they are all in the New Testament. Three models that we find in sacred scripture. In my experience, perhaps most Christian preaching has focused on the third model of the death of Jesus. I'm certainly not going to argue against that. I believe in it myself. But I'll raise the question, have we focused on that third model, that of the Redeemer who saves us through his death, but at the same time we've neglected, or we haven't appreciated sufficiently, that the New Testament has other understandings of the death of Jesus, and that in fact the New Testament shows developing varying sets of understandings as to what the death of Jesus meant. As you reflect upon the death of Jesus, and if you reflect on the richness and variety of New Testament Christologies, I'd like you to bear this in mind. Whenever someone comes up to you and says, here is the Bible's witness of Christ, pure and simple, be very suspicious of such claims, because usually they are oversimplifying the truth of Jesus, or they could be focusing on one aspect of the truth of Jesus and neglecting the others. I'd like you to reflect now on those three approaches to the death of Jesus. Jesus as the prophet martyr, Jesus as the suffering righteous one, and Jesus who atoned for us and redeemed us through his death. What I encourage people to do is to bear in mind that the approach that is the best approach is not to take one or the other of these understandings, but to appreciate that all three are there in the New Testament. One insight that I've had over the years, though, is that we do tend to focus on one of these answers, but within different pastoral contexts, one or the other of those answers from the New Testament may be more or less helpful to people within their own contexts. When people are concerned about their sinfulness and how their sin separates them from God, then talking to them, relating their condition to the redemptive death of Jesus would make the most sense. But what about people who are being persecuted for speaking the truth of God? What about those who might be ministering in a particular land where the government doesn't like what they're doing, and they are being arrested, jailed, tortured, even murdered? Then should we be focusing on the death of Jesus for their sins? Or pastorally, is it more helpful to relate what's happening to them to what happened to Jesus? that just as Jesus is the ultimate prophet martyr, this is something that we share with Jesus, who is in solidarity with us in that way. And so, I don't mean to say that I'm relativist towards these three models. The model that I would suggest is an integrated one that accounts for all three. But for different people at different times, we might find that people can relate to the prophet martyr, the suffering righteous, or the redemptive one. They can relate to one of those at different times in their lives. So, the challenge to you, which of those do you relate to the most right now? And if you're in ministry or service of some sort, which of those three models do you think relates best to the people whom you are serving? Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you again very much online.